One thing you learn about theology is that God is a God of revelation. That means God desires to reveal Himself for the sake of His own glory. God makes Himself known, and therefore God is glorified in that knowledge that is possessed by His creatures. So let's imagine a throne room for a moment in eternity, somewhere long ago. And we have principalities and powers and mights and dominions all before the throne of God, worshiping the one who's created them. And this God desires to reveal Himself in such a way to them so that they might know Him in a way that no one has ever known Him before. And so what does He do? An act of grace. He creates something far below Himself. Us. Man. Oh, don't think that you're so hot. He could have done much better with all of us. You see, making man was no big thing for Him. It was a step down. And He demonstrated His graciousness in our creation even. And then there was this fall. And with the fall came a rattling of arms in heaven. Every principality and power and might and dominion rallied to war against this little thing that was made that would in some way lift its face up to God and rebel. But instead of sending destruction, God demonstrates His mercy again. And instead of sending forth wrath, He gave a promise that one day someone would come, born of woman, born under the law. He would crush the head of the serpent, and he'd be wounded in the heel. And the angels look on. How could it be that God could be this way? How could it be that He could be so gracious? How could He deal with such a creature? Eternity rolls on, and there's a noise in heaven, something totally unheard of. The Son of God is to become a what? A man? That thing, He is to become one of them. The glory of heaven, the treasure of eternity, is now going to become that. My, isn't God something that we didn't know about before? And then He goes down and He's nailed to a tree, and armor clanks again in heaven. Because anyone who would do that to the very person for which they were created deserves to die. But in the plan of God, He was sent to die for us. And in His death, He redeemed a people for Himself. And then He cleans that people off, and He sanctifies that people. And then one day a great horn blows in heaven, and the Christ Himself comes back to take His own. And these little things, these little insignificant creatures, these things that were bound in disgust, these things that made themselves an abomination, these things that have no right to even enter on a crystal lake. They walk into heaven with the Son of God, transformed into His image, and they sit down at the right hand of the Son of God in heaven. That's you. And then all the glory and graciousness of God throughout all of eternity is poured out on you. And then all principalities and powers and dominions and every creature that's ever been created takes one look at you and falls down before the throne of God throughout eternity, worshiping God because they now know who He is by the way that He acted and continues to act towards you. You are a demonstration of the glory and the majesty and the love and the graciousness of God. That's your purpose. All creation will worship God because of what He's done for you. That's why God becomes your magnificent obsession. I'm so sad that it couldn't be said in a greater way. But you are, without a doubt, the most privileged of all creatures that have ever been created. And the love of God towards you goes far beyond what can be written. And look at what's ahead of you. To the wind with your problems. To the wind with insecurities. To the wind with trials. To the wind with tribulation. To the wind with not being everything you want to be right now. To the wind with all of it. And rejoice. Why? Look what's ahead of you, man. Look what's ahead of you. And all because He died and rose again from the dead. Now rejoice.